All right. Human evolution, Unit 6, Part B. So when we talk about the Oligocene period, which is 33.9 million years ago, we talked about plants, modern angiosperms, those are flowering plants. Animals, we have browsers. Browsers are herbivores that eat um, broadleaves versus grazers eat grass. We have at this point in time monkey-like primates. 2.3 million years ago in the Miocene. I think these are epics. Um, we have plants. The grasslands grow, the forests shrink. We have more grasslands. Again, the environment is changing. Animals either adapt or die. At this point, we have ape-like mammals. We have grazers now. They're doing really well, especially with all the grass. And of course, those pesky insects. When we look at it's not really parallel evolution, but plants and insects did evolve kind of together. So I guess you could call it parallel evolution. Um, so as the plants, have changed, the insects that rely on them have also changed. And then when we get to the Pliocene, which is 5.3 million years ago, we have plants. We have green, which are called herbaceous, versus our woody plants. And again, the angiosperms are doing quite well. And this is where we first see our hominids. And we'll get to a little bit into that. The Quaternary period is divided into two epochs. We have the Pleistocene and the Holocene. The Pleistocene was 1.8 million years ago, and this is during the Ice Age. And we have the woolly mammoth, saber-toothed tiger, and modern humans. And then the last 10,000 years is the age of the Homo sapiens, which is us. So we talked about, I know I have a little review here, but I kind of wanted to go into this a little bit more into Kingdom Animalia breaks down into 8 phyla. We have cnidarians. We have, which would be like jellyfish. We have platyhelminthes, which are segmented worms, nematodes, which are roundworms. And then we have mollusks, which would be like your clams and am I drawing a blank? Squid and all that stuff. And then we have Annelida, which would be like your earthworms. Arthropoda, which is insects, Echinodermata, sea urchins, sea stars, and then chordates. Okay, and then again, we kind of talked a little bit already about chordates. When we look at phylum Chordata, it separates into 11 classes. And we see many, many, many of the classes. And of course, this would be us right here. Why is my pen not working? So that would be us right here. Class Mammalia. Okay. So evolution for reptiles. So we're kind of reviewing. So we know we had amphibians during the reptiles evolved from amphibians during the Carboniferous period. So the things for reptiles was, in order to fully free themselves from water, is they had to have a different type of egg. So amphibians require water. They lay their eggs in water. Reptiles have a shell to protect the eggs from drying out. Okay. We'll call it the amniotic egg, and I'll go in a little bit more detail here soon. So we have our modern reptiles, which include turtles, crocodiles, snakes, and lizards. We had 3 groups. We have our reptile, or reptilia, our dinosaurs, and then we have birds and mammals. All right. So we kind of have this, we can see how they are all related with this little tree here. So with our amniotic egg, okay, birds had the same thing. They have an amniotic egg. The egg is designed to be laid on land and to allow the embryo to develop. Birds had the ability of flight, Feathers were derived from, they're basically modified scales. Teeth, you're thinking birds with teeth. Okay. So when we look at, again, we're talking about early birds. When we look at the transitional fossils showing the basically where dinosaurs, small dinosaurs kind of started to have those bird-like characteristics. The transitional fossil was called Archaeopteryx. It was a very famous, it's still somewhat famous. It's just when we talk about Tiktaalik, that's kind of the newest transitional fossil. So when we look at this, as we're moving, like I said, a lot of this we've already talked about. This is an echidna. It's an egg-laying mammal, along with the platypus. Right? And so when we look, again, if you think about it, the monotremes probably were first. Whoop. And then we have marsupials where they have pouches. And so with the pouches, the babies are born very, very early in development. They have to, as basically kind of an embryo, that not much, I don't know, it's kind of borderline between embryo and fetus. Very, very small. Matter of fact, generally their back legs aren't even fully developed. They're just little stubs, and they'll kind of crawl into the pouch, hook up to the nipple, and where they'll feed, and they'll latch on and feed and finish their development in the pouch. Versus, okay, our placental, where placental, the embryo, then the fetus, they all develop inside the uterus until they are born. For many mammals, the babies are fully developed. Okay, others they require a little more TLC, but it's a short-term um, care process, except for humans. Okay, and there are reasons for that one. And we've talked about the parallel evolution here between, again, the placentals and the marsupials. Now, when we've been talking about the continents and how they move, and the northern continents kind of split from the southern, and then they all moved east and west. We know that the monotremes were replaced by the marsupials and the early placental mammals. They were outcompeted. Again, we're looking at organisms. It is said that there are no two organisms can occupy the same niche in the same location at the same time. They compete for those resources and that living space. One will outcompete the other. All right. So when we talk about replacement, we're saying they outcompeted them and they went extinct. So we know that with the marsupials, the placental mammals pretty much outdominated them. Um, some of the one particular marsupial that was in South America, that once that land bridge, if I don't know if you realize, but North America and South America were not connected. We have a land bridge that formed Central America that allowed those two continents to be connected. And this allowed that one marsupial to migrate up to North America, and that, as we know it, is the possum. So, and many of you guys see possums all the time here in Northern Illinois. They are a marsupial. They have babies in a pouch. So we know that the placental mammals definitely outcompeted the marsupials. Like I said, the only place they really got a foothold in and outcompeted I don't know exactly how or why they outcompeted the placental was Australia. And as we know, there are a ton of marsupials in Australia. So again, some of the reasons why they have a higher metabolic rates, they have better ways of controlling their body temperatures, and they have a better way of nourishing those embryos. All right. So when we look at human evolution, you look at us. We are in kingdom Animalia. Okay. We are in phylum Chordata. And then we are in class Mammalia, order primates. We have like sub and super, like maybe if we go up here, we can call like a subkingdom, would be vertebrata. where we have vertebrae. So there are some little categories in there. And then we are superfamily Hominoidea, and then family Hominidae, and then genus Homo, and species Sapiens. Some people say that we are a subspecies of Sapiens, and so we would say we're Homo sapiens sapien. So when we look at primates, this does include the lemurs, the gibbons, apes, orangutans, and us. We have adapted to an arboreal lifestyle. So when we had all these forests, um, our common ancestors would primarily live in trees, and we would swing from tree to tree. It's called brachiating, which is why opposable thumbs are so important for holding onto branches. So we have a lot of different traits that made us successful for this lifestyle. We have well-developed eyes and ears and what we call binocular vision. Binocular vision is where both of your eyes overlap in the same region. When your eyes overlap in we could call it your field of view, it gives you depth perception. Okay, which is really, really important. So where we have that depth perception and we have our peripheral vision. Okay, so mine's about here. You need to kind of test yours, how, without moving your head, how far to the side can you see? But where it overlaps is where we have our depth perception versus what's called, like a fish has an eye on either side of its head. It increases its peripheral vision, which is great for detecting predators, but it reduces, they have a very small overlapping area for depth perception. Which would not be great when you're trying to go from branch to branch if you can't judge the distance. And here's our picture of our opposable thumb, which again works great for grasping, especially from branch to branch, and now for us for manipulating tools. The oldest primate fossils resemble the modern tarsiers and lemurs. Fossil evidence indicates that primates evolved from a tarsier-like common ancestor. Some primates diverge or split to form this, we're going to keep the tarsiers, then we have what's called the lemurs and the tamarins, and others evolved into hominoids. So when we look at our primate family tree, we have and you can see how far, we branched back this million years ago. We're talking like 50 million years here. Okay, so we have our lemurs, our lorises, our tarsiers, we have our New World monkeys, Old World monkeys, and our apes. And so if you take that ape family down here, you can see where it splits into the gibbons, gorilla, chimps, bonobos, humans, and the orangutan. So here is another picture of that primate common ancestor and how they're organized. Different little diagram here, kind of blown up. All right. All right. Superfamily Hominoideae. Pronounce it right. Hominoideae includes chimps, gorillas, orangutans, and both ancestral and modern humans. So we can see here how many years ago. So again, we are most commonly our closest, I don't want to say ancestor, because chimps are not our ancestor. Our ancestor would be here where we diverged. Okay, so you could say our cousin. Okay, our closest cousin would be a chimp. The amount of similarity in our DNA is absolutely, it's so similar, it's unbelievable. Okay, so some characteristics of hominoids is that we have a large brain, we don't have a tail, and we have a more erect posture. We stand up straighter. So we can see that the difference between these organisms. When you watch the video, Becoming Human, it's going to go into a lot of detail. It is fascinating. Please, please make sure you watch it. Okay. So fossils include, so we have so many different fossils in Oh, I wish I spoke Latin because it would be so much easier to pronounce these words. So we've got Dryopithecus, which was found in Europe, and Proconsul, which is in Africa. So one of the fossils for hominoids must have been a common ancestor for apes and humans. To say that our the location for the birth of our ancestors is Africa would be absolutely correct, and this is where we're finding most of the early fossils of humans or human-like ancestors. And it's really kind of interesting because when we talk about Olduvai Gorge, right here is where two plates connect, and eventually it's going to fill in with water and it's going to separate out. Okay. So with the earth moving and splitting like that, we have found a lot of different fossils. It helps dig stuff up for us. Okay. And so this is where Lucy, we talk a lot about Lucy. Lucy is famous because, often when we find fossils, we find like a couple bones and stuff from one organism. We might find a couple T-Rex bones here and then a couple from this specimen. And then we can kind of put them together, but they're different individuals that we have pieced. Lucy was almost completely intact. We had a huge number of fossils or bones just from her. Okay, so we can see these different organisms here. Why are we not moving? Hmm, I am wondering if that's the last one I have here for this presentation. I like to put, as you guys notice, the last slide, I say the end, so I know that it's over. But when we look at this, I mean, we're finding fossils that um, in the 42. Australopithecus is when we look at these different individuals, they were only about a meter tall. And so it's just really kind of, that is definitely one of our past ancestors for our particular species. So I am going to guess that I am going to pick up on finishing our ancestry on part C. So I will see you in your last lecture of this course.